welcome back to another video on my channel. So since I disappeared and then reappeared and then disappeared again, the most requested topic that I get to talk about or kind of bring back is cryptids. People email me, they message me on Instagram, they comment on my videos. Everybody just wants to see cryptid videos, and so today, even though it took a very long time, I am back with another cryptid video. So with that all being said, let's get right into today's video. The cryptid that we are going to be talking about today is known as the Ahool. These creatures are also sometimes called Ahools, but that sounds very similar to another word, so we're just going to call them the Ahools for the purpose of today's video. These creatures are more often than not found in the deepest depths of the jungles in Java, Indonesia, as well as they are often seen in New Guinea. People who have seen this creature often describe it as looking like a giant bat, but there is a few people who have claimed to have encountered this creature who describe it as looking like a giant flying monkey. There is also another creature which is often seen in New Guinea, which is called the ropin, and that is believed to be a subspecies of the Ahool. So again, many people who have seen this creature say that it has the features of a bat, kind of mixed in with that of a chimpanzee. The creature is said to have very long nails and red-skinned wings, and they are said to be covered in a thick gray or black fur. The Ahool is said to have a wingspan of 18 to 28 feet, which is 4 times the wingspan of the world's largest bat. The world's largest bat is known as a flying fox, and they are only known to kind of prey on fish, whereas the Ahool is known to allegedly attack humans. Anyways, let's get back to the creature that we are mainly supposed to be focusing on today, the Ahool. So the Ahool gained its name because when it is encountered, it is often heard making this very low, slow, almost like a moan, and when it does this sound, it sounds like it's saying Ahool, but like really slow and kind of dragged out. The Ahool is said to be a nocturnal creature just like bats, and they are said to hunt for their victims at night. Usually when the Ahool is going to attack its victim, it swoops down just like a bat, and it is said that this creature can kill its victims with just one bite. But after biting its victim, just to make sure that the victim is actually deceased, that is when the Ahool will proceed to break its victim's neck. These creatures are said to have been seen hunting for fish and smaller animals, which is very similar to the flying fox. However, again, these creatures are also said to prey on humans a lot of the time, which is very, very creepy. Another thing to note about the Ahool is that they are often said to even attack and try and eat each other, which I think is a very, very interesting tidbit of information, because I feel like species to species, they usually stick together and not really attack or eat each other. That's kind of like cannibalistic and weird, and you don't really see that often, but the Ahool is said to eat other creatures that are also Ahools. They're the same species, but they kind of like eat each other, which is very strange to me. Something else to note about the Ahool is that the description of this cryptid sounds very similar to the description of several other cryptids, and to me personally, I always like to take notice of that when I'm researching these types of animals and creatures, just because I think that there is a strong possibility that there are these creatures in different places all over the world, and everybody just kind of calls them something different. So when a creature that looks similar to, you know, a thunderbird is seen somewhere and they're maybe calling it something else, to me that just kind of gives it more back that this creature could very well exist. Something that I noticed about the Ahool that is a little bit different than the other cryptids that we have talked about on this channel is, despite my best efforts and my very intense digging on the internet, I could not find very many sightings and encounters with this creature. Now, I'm not really sure if that means that just not a lot of people have encountered an Ahool, or if people just haven't really shared their stories, or maybe I was looking in the wrong place. I'm not really sure, but there are some stories that I came across online that I did think were very interesting and that they were worth sharing. So right now I'm going to be sharing some encounters with an Ahool with you guys. So just before we jump into these encounters, I do just have to say none of these stories are mine. I have never encountered an Ahool or any cryptid for that matter. These are just stories that I found interesting and I'm sharing with you guys for entertainment and educational purposes. One of the encounters that I came across more than once while researching for this video was what I believe is the first encounter that anybody had ever had with an Ahool, and it took place in 1925. This encounter was experienced by a naturalist by the name of Ernest Bartlett. Now, he was in the Salak Mountains in Indonesia when he had this encounter. Ernest had been out on his own that day in the mountains just exploring, and that is when all of a sudden he saw this giant bat. He said that before the bat had flown over his head, he could hear this weird low moaning sound that sounded again like the creature was saying Ahool. This giant bat-like creature then swooped very low over Ernest's head and really shook him to his core and left him absolutely terrified. But then the creature flew off, and Ernest didn't think that he would ever see this creature again. However, that was not the case, because Ernest would have a second encounter with the Ahool in 1927. So again, Ernest was a naturalist, and he lived, or at least had, a little open concept kind of cabin in the very deepest parts of the Java jungle in Indonesia. And it was nighttime on this particular night. It was around 11:30, and he was laying down, going to sleep, doing what he did absolutely every night, just listening to the sounds of the jungle around him. This is when Ernest described hearing a very strange noise coming from directly above his hut. This wasn't a sound that Ernest had heard frequently or often at all, but he knew that he had heard this before when he was out that day in the mountains. He heard this low moaning sound as if this creature was saying Ahool. He knew that he had recognized the sound, and so he quickly jumped out of bed and gathered whatever he thought he would need, and he went outside of his hut to see if he could capture a glimpse of this creature. He could hear the creature moaning in the distance, but he never even saw a little bit of the creature. He never even caught a glimpse of it the second time that he had encountered it. Ernest was very familiar with the jungle. He had lived in the deepest parts of the jungle for a very long time. He was a naturalist. He was really familiar with all of the animals in that area, and so this really blew him away, and he started to share what he had seen with his friends and his family. But after having time to think about it, he then kind of dismissed himself, saying that there was a possibility that maybe this was just some kind of very large bird that he had not seen before. But his friends and his family and his loved ones really didn't jump on board with this idea, because again, Ernest was very familiar with the forest and all of the birds in that general area. He was very familiar with all of the creatures that had been living around him in the jungle. He had lived out there for several years, and so they just didn't think that it was possible that he could have mistaken a very large bird for this really strange bat chimpanzee looking creature. Because Ernest's encounter was so strange, it was passed down quite a bit until it had reached a man by the name of Ivan T. Sanderson. This man took a very strong interest in this creature, and the reason that he was so interested in this creature is because he believed that he had also had an encounter with the exact same thing when he was in Cameroon. He was in the mountains in Cameroon in South Africa when he had had a very similar encounter with what he had originally thought was some kind of unidentified species of a very large bat. Now this bat again was so large, or whatever it was, and it had swooped down so close to Sanderson's head that it left him feeling very uncomfortable. And so when he got back to town, he started to kind of tell the locals about what he had witnessed, and they were not surprised at all. In fact, a lot of these people were very familiar with the creature that Sanderson had said that he encountered, but they had referred to it as a kangamoto. Another encounter that I came across online took place much more recently in August of 2012. Now this took place in the forests of Portugal, which is very far away from where the Ahool was originally being spotted. But anyways, there was a group of 4 friends, and they had been camping again in Portugal when all of a sudden they heard this very low moaning like sound that almost sounded like the creature was saying again, Ahool. They were kind of shook into their core, looking around trying to figure out where this sound could be coming from, when all of a sudden a very large bat-like creature swooped down over their campsite. It did not attack any of the 4 friends or do anything like that, but it did leave them quite shaken up, and they sat there for a bit and then decided to just pack up camp. But that was the last time that they had ever seen this creature, and once it flew out of sight, they never did see it again. Now, next to a lot of the other cryptids that I've spoken about on this channel, again, I could not find very many encounters with the Ahool. Whether that is because they aren't happening or people just aren't reporting them, I'm not really sure, but despite that entire thing, scientists do strongly believe that the Ahool could very well exist. Many of them believe that this is just some kind of different species of bat that has been yet to be identified, but other scientists believe that this is the remains of what is now an extinct creature called the Pterosaurus. I believe that I'm saying that correctly. And when I was looking at this, it does appear that the Ahool and the Pterosaurus do have several similarities, although I don't know if I would say that they have enough similarities to be the same creature. Although obviously, as you go on living over the years and the years and the years, you start to kind of change, so that's definitely a possibility, but who really knows? I know that today's video was kind of a shorter one, but I did know that you guys wanted to see a cryptid video, and I thought that this cryptid was super interesting, even though I couldn't find a lot of encounters with them. Like I've mentioned in a couple of my other videos, especially the Thunderbird one, think that creatures that are supposed to be small that kind of get morphed and end up being very, very large are extremely creepy. I would never want to encounter an Ahool or a Thunderbird or anything like that ever. Those kinds of things just leave me feeling very, very unsettled. So I thought that this would be a good topic to cover in today's video. But guys, that is really all that I have for you on today's topic. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.